Welcome. I'm Holly Putnam, and I'm from the Cooking Family, and I'm joined here by a special guest, and that's my brother, Casey. And I grew up in Indiana. Casey brought his family down for a little visit to Texas this weekend, and so we decided to make some Texas chili.
Awesome.
So we're going to get started making it, and that's about it. So we're going to show you how we make our Texas chili, and our Texas chili has beans. It's
Yes.
a little bit of contradictory subject, the beans in the chili or not. But we love to add beans to our chili.
To add to the complication, do you smash part of your beans or do they all go in whole?
Well, we put them in whole, so we're going to allow the Instant Pot to cook the beans in the chili, and then at the end, if you want to smash them, so tell about the smashing. Where's the smashing come
there was
from?
always a little bit of a contradiction in our family.
Growing up.
Whether you smashed, Mom did not want the beans smashed. Dad always wanted to smash half the beans. So it was
So when you smash the beans, it just adds a little bit of more body to your chili and makes it less soupy. So we ate a lot of chili growing up.
Absolutely. Does spaghetti belong in chili?
Well, that's another one of those regional things. So that's one thing. Mom and Dad would put spaghetti in the chili sometimes and just cook it in there.
And sometimes only the second go around for the chili, right?
Yes.
It was sometimes the first time it was new chili. There was no spaghetti, but then the second go around we'd have spaghetti in it.
Right, but it wasn't casserole-y. It was still soup. There wasn't enough spaghetti to make it real thick. It was just a little spaghetti floating around in there. But then also sometimes we would have chili five-way. So Dad's a trucker, and sometimes he would go to Cincinnati, and so he brought home the idea of doing Cincinnati chili, and so you do a whole pile of spaghetti, chili.
As the sauce.
Chili as the sauce, kind of like spaghetti, and then raw onions, shredded cheese, maybe some sour cream on top.
Yep. And even more to that, so when I married my wife Sarah, her family always put cut spaghetti, which is like small macaroni noodles.
Oh, so little short pieces that you can buy?
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
Yep, and so
Instead of
early in
breaking
our
it up.
marriage, that was an area of a lot of fighting. in our early, might have been one of our biggest fights, is are we going to make your mom's chili or my mom's chili? But we've worked it out. We've got a compromised chili that we make at home that's fantastic and very similar to what we've got here.
Awesome. Casey actually learned how to make chili before I did.
I did. So I was Dad's sous chef as a young guy. I was probably 9 when we started making chili together when I was, I don't know, maybe even the primary operation of making chili, and Dad was more my helper at that time. He turned me loose and brown the onions and the hamburger and get everything going. It was fantastic.
So
I've always
I would
loved
call
chili.
Casey, hey Casey, early in my marriage, because I knew he knew how to make it. I would call him and say, hey, how do you make your chili? That was very early on.
Lots of garlic,
20
lots of cumin.
years ago. That's right. That's right. So Casey's the baby of the family. He's 5 years younger than me,
That's right.
4 years younger than West, who's younger than me.
And
The three of us are real close, and then Casey tagged along at the end. So we were all in busy high school, and Casey was the one and only baby. Get that, just set it aside. So we're going to start by browning up a pound of ground beef. And this Instant Pot has already been on saute mode for a little while, so it's nice and hot. And I love to use this wooden spurtle, some people call it, a flat wooden paddle to brown up ground beef. It makes it really easy to break it up real nice because it's thick handled and there's just no messing around. And it's also easier for kids to break it up if you've got a kid helping brown the ground beef. Browning ground beef was really the first thing I ever did in the kitchen. A lot of times it was for hamburger helper.
Yep.
Very first thing I learned to cook. Mom would put me on the browning the ground beef. A lot of times it was frozen and you'd have to flip it over, scrape it off, flip it over, scrape it off.
Yep. When's the last time you had hamburger helper, Holly? It's been a while for me.
It's been a while, and so that was another thing Mom always did. She would modify the hamburger helper by adding a little bit more pasta, always a lot of peas usually if it were like the beef and noodles or whatever. She would always add some kind of veggie. And so I realized at some point, well, I'm adding all this stuff anyway. Why not just figure out how to make it without the box and the powder and all that jazz? So that's what we did. You want to cut up this onion?
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, Uncle Casey hasn't used my really awesome knife. It's very,
I've got
very
10 now.
sharp.
Let's see how this goes.
It's very sharp. And he's going to cut an onion. He cuts his a little differently than me, probably.
I know this part is wrong by the cooking family standard. You don't cut
Right.
off the fuzzy end.
Right. Because it holds it together. Okay, so you're going to peel it while it's still whole.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So Casey, how many meals do you cook in your household?
Honestly, not many. My wife generally does all the cooking at home. I'm always happy to help. But she usually has the game plan together. There are certain meals I make, and if we're making chili, that's one that I generally, well, I don't know that that's true. Probably half the time I make the chili.
Okay. I mean, it depends on if you're available from work.
Right. So, yeah, I work a fair amount. When I am home, we always do a big breakfast on Saturday, and I'm usually the...
Breakfast chef.
Well, I can't say that with all certainty either, though, because Sarah, if we're having pancakes, Sarah makes it. That's not the right bowl, is it? Which bowl am I supposed to put these?
That's fine. That's for trash for sure.
Okay.
So this is how I was taught to cut an onion by my dad.
Yep.
We were always, I remember Dad cooking a lot. He was home on weekends because he was gone through the week trucking, and he pretty much cooked every weekend when he was home. Well, he was always home on weekends, so he cooked during the weekends. And so he would let us, we would sit and watch him, and he would let us learn to cut it. But it started out with just watching him.
Right. Now, so the way he taught me was at this point you'd turn it on its side. And so this is something I learned from you, is to go ahead and lop it in half here.
Okay.
I think. There we are. And then do the two halves
Okay.
that way. And that's
Then it's not so wobbly.
much less wobbly and much easier to...
How are you liking that knife?
I'm liking this knife. I
this
have
is
the dull old knife that we got when we got married 13 years ago.
You need to invest in a new knife.
I really do.
It really makes a huge difference when you have a nice sharp knife. You're not as likely. It's actually less dangerous if you have a sharper knife because you're not having to push as hard.
I have to muscle
use as
through.
much force, and it makes cooking just real pleasurable, real nice and easy when your tools are good tools.
So the nicest, sharpest knife we have at home is this little paring knife that's probably 3-inch long blade, and that's what I've been using a lot lately because it's nice and sharp. But I
have
to figure out what this guy is and get one. I like it.
Yeah, it's a Schoon chef's knife, premier chef's knife, and it feels real good in your hand, and it's got a nice sharp blade. We've had this since Christmas, and under heavy use, we haven't had to sharpen it yet. It's kept its edge really well.
Take a couple of these big hunks and knock them down.
Now, do you drain your beef?
So we raise our own cattle, and then the ground beef that we get from our own cattle really doesn't need to be drained.
Because it's
It
pretty
is
lean.
fairly lean. When we're done, you could drain it if you really wanted to, but there's not. Do you need that to scrape off?
Yep, I'm going to just put that.
Hardly any need for draining of ours.
Okay, so this could probably be drained. Should I drain it?
I wouldn't worry about
Okay,
it.
I won't worry about it.
If you were making taco meat, I probably would, but since this is chili, that
Right.
juice will just add to the flavor.
That'll be great. Okay. So we're going to saute these onions in with the ground beef. You want lots of onions. We love lots of onions in our chili. It gives tons of flavor.
I'll get working on.
You want to work on that bell pepper?
Or should we call it a mango like Grandma did?
Yes.
Can I have the knife back?
Yes, you can. Yeah, I don't know where that comes from. My mom always called a sweet bell pepper a mango. And I think that must be a regional Indiana cultural thing.
Must be.
And someone else was saying that they called it something else. I don't remember, but growing up, in fact, Mom said, I was asking her about this the other day. She said she never had a bell pepper until she married Dad. Never saw one. Grew up on a farm. So
Flora,
our mom
Indiana.
grew up on a farm in northern Indiana. They had dairy cattle. They had chickens. They would actually sell their milk and their eggs to the local grocery store, and always had a garden, always had grain, crops growing. And it's really interesting. Never laid eyes on a bell pepper till she married our dad, who grew up also in Indiana. So I guess that's just different families, different food ingredients that they would use.
Yep.
So it's pretty interesting. I love how food is such a family bonding thing. It helps you, for me, it helps, it just draws me to thinking about the generations past, just having a talk about what the grandparents, it's just a way of remembering my grandparents, my children's great-grandparents, and sharing those kinds of stories. Yep. I think is really bonds the generations. At least for my heart, it draws my heart to thinking about my grandparents.
Yep. Well, and then as we were growing up, when supper was on, we were all in the kitchen.
Yes.
We would all stand around, and maybe we weren't all actively, in the cooking process, but we were all around, and generally there'd be a pot of coffee on, and we'd sit around and just enjoy each other's company while Mom would slave away, or
well, and usually somebody was helping do something.
Yep, absolutely.
And then the cook's not all alone too. I think cooking together as a family is a great way to spend time together. It allows quality time. It's an activity to do with your family and your children that produces something you all need, and an opportunity. When you're not spending that time together, then when are you going to think of things to talk about?
Right.
It's kind of hard to, when you're put on the spot, to think of something to talk about. Okay, let's have a conversation. Those things
what are we going to talk about?
happen more naturally when you're just next to each other. And cooking is a great way to be next to each other and have the opportunity for those conversations to come up.
And for me, I'm always very concerned about what my next meal is going to be, and I need it to be.
Casey has a great love for food.
I get about 75% of my
actually.
joy in life from the food that I eat and the company that I eat it with.
Well, God says to take pleasure in that, and what is it in Ecclesiastes, that a man might enjoy his labor and enjoy food, and I mean, there's so much of life is just that mundane everyday.
And the enjoying it comes from the quality of the food, so I always like to jump in and make sure that I'm going to be happy with it.
It's going to be high quality.
If I see something in a kitchen that's not going well, I'm happy to help. I'll jump in and do what I can to
steer that
to
the
try.
right direction. Okay, so we put our green bell pepper in. You can use any color of bell pepper that you want. That's a way to kind of change it up and make it look pretty if you're taking it for a potluck dinner.
Orange peppers, yellow peppers.
Yeah, orange, red, yellow makes it look really nice. So we also love a lot of garlic, and this is about 8 cloves of garlic.
Now this garlic doesn't look a thing like, so I'm used to garlic that comes in this, like this.
Powder, okay,
So
yes.
you'll have to help me with the beating of the cloves here.
So here's what we do on this. We like to, this is fresh garlic, and of course you can use granulated garlic, garlic powder. You can use the minced garlic that comes at the store in a jar. If you use that, note that it's soaking in citric acid, so it kind of has a sour taste. So when I use that, I like to rinse it in a little tiny strainer and it takes away some of that weird flavor. Okay, this one looks like it's kind of bad. I'm going to just chuck that one, replace it. So we love using a meat mallet, Casey, to break open that skin, because if you've ever tried to do one of these without, it's like takes forever. But if you use a meat mallet, break it open, you can kind of get rid of some of your pent-up frustration if you ever have any of that.
Need to smash something.
Plus, it's fun. It's really fun for the kids to get in there and
Right.
do that. Every now and then, a garlic clove will go flying.
Find it later.
Go find it somewhere. Yeah, find it later or whatever. Or chase it down. And then the kids also, another thing, so it's fun to find ways that you can get kids to be able to cook with you in the kitchen, and tools that help you do that job. You know, make it safe and fun and doable, easy enough for them to do. So I'm going to move this out of the way because we're going to use the chopper. So
Ooh, yes.
Your little Ethan, there's a bad spot on this one. Ethan would really enjoy this.
Yeah, so we recently got one of these
Okay,
at home,
good.
and the kids always do fight over who gets to
Pound the
mince the onion. We've
Okay,
been
there
using
you
it for
go.
onions in our sloppy Joe,
Uh-huh.
which we call gom. That's a term I got from my in-laws' family.
Okay. What? And
But-
is there any? Where's that term come from?
Southern Indiana, somewhere in the
Okay.
Greensburg area, more
They call Sloppy Joe gom.
gom, and it's just because it's all gommed up. It's all gommed
It's
together.
all kind of a mix.
But so I like to have onions in it. My kids would rather
Okay.
not have big hunks of onion, so we use the Pampered Chef chopper to
Make it
compromise,
nice and fine.
make it
Well,
small
that's
enough
good.
that they don't notice big hunks of onions in
Right.
there.
That's great. So I love that too, because yes, different people have different tastes. You have different levels of, there are people who are picky eaters, and that's okay. I love that you're able to kind of find that compromise that will work for everyone by making it a little adjustment. So yes, adjust the recipe. That's one of the beauties of cooking, is you can adjust it to your tastes, your needs. If you guys hate bell peppers, leave them out.
Yep.
If you like them hot, put a jalapeno in there.
Right.
So you can just kind of go any direction with that. Okay, so we put the garlic in at the end of the sauteing so that it doesn't get bitter. And we're going to hurry up, open up the can. If I can locate, here's the can opener. You want to open those? So we're doing 1 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes and 1 28-ounce can of diced tomatoes. I'm going to go ahead and also add this oregano, a teaspoon of oregano. Just gives it a lot of flavor. Do you guys use oregano in yours?
Absolutely.
It's amazing how much flavor that little bit of oregano adds, but it doesn't make it taste Italian. Okay, if you have any ground beef on the bottom, if there's anything browned on the bottom of your pot, you're going to want to deglaze that and make sure that there's nothing sticking on the bottom. Otherwise, you might get the burn notice on your Instant Pot, and it won't keep coming up to pressure. So you don't need to throw away your food or anything. You'll just need to scrape it down on the bottom and reset it to cook. You might need to add a little bit more water. We're actually going to cook the beans in this chili, so we're going to have to add a little bit of extra water so that at the end, the water that the beans absorb will be plenty to allow it to keep cooking under pressure. Okay, so we went ahead and soaked these beans overnight. You can cook dried beans in the Instant Pot. Just put them in with plenty of water. But I find that they cook better if you soak them. So even if you soak them only 20 minutes, they'll cook better and they won't be as likely to float up to the top and have some crunchy beans on top. So this is 1 pound of overnight soaked pinto beans. Like I said, you don't have to soak them overnight, but your end product, if you have time, is going to come out just a little bit better if you do. So these were dried. We just threw them in the jar. And I might actually not use all these. We'll just kind of, we'll have to freeze these or put them in the refrigerator. Just seems like a little more than I want right now. And we need to add our cumin. Do you want to measure out the cumin?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, 1/4 cup of cumin. And that might seem like a huge amount, but we're making a big pot of chili, so don't be afraid of it. Just enjoy all the flavor. Cumin adds a super earthy, warm, how would you describe cumin?
Delicious.
Delicious. It just adds a ton of flavor to the chili.
So when I would make it with Dad, we would cover the entire thing on probably at least of 1/8 of an inch thick in the pot.
Okay.
With garlic and then the same amount of cumin.
Okay.
It was went heavy on the spice.
Heavy on the spice. There you go. That looks great. So let's see if it basically covers. Does that look like about?
Close.
Do you normally a little bit more?
Probably a little bit more. It can't hurt.
It can't hurt.
I've never had chili and said, ugh, too much cumin.
Too much cumin. Okay, I remember at a church potluck there was someone who added pickles, sweet pickles to their chili. I think it was Flo.
I can't knock it till I try it, but
it was good. It added just a little sweetness and a little tart.
Okay.
It was just a different addition. And there goes the chili powder. This is just standard run-of-the-mill grocery store chili powder. It's not real spicy. It doesn't have cayenne. You can add a little bit of cayenne to this. Then we also like to add just a little tablespoon Worcestershire sauce.
Or is it Worcestershire?
So that's another funny thing. Dad has a couple things that he pronounces funny, and I don't know if he grew up with that or if he was always just joking, but it was Worcestershire sauce.
If we'd have spaghetti, we'd have Parmesan cheese on it.
Parmesan cheese. And it was Italian instead of Italian.
From the nation of Italy?
Right. And I think we did, when we became teenagers, we kind of were like asking
Come on,
about
Dad.
that.
Let's get it together.
And then just a little bit of brown sugar, a couple teaspoons. If you're avoiding sugar totally, then you can leave this out. But what the brown sugar does is just kind of neutralizes the acidity of the tomatoes. I learned that from Grandma Vera.
Yep.
And she made chili.
Mm-hmm. Hers always had macaroni noodles in it, right?
Yeah, macaroni as opposed to spaghetti, right?
Right.
Kind of more almost like a goulash.
Right.
Okay, and now I need to add a little bit of water to this. I'm not remembering exactly how much. I'm going to have to consult my recipe. Because we're using dried beans. If you're using canned beans, and you certainly can use canned beans, then you don't have to do that. Okay. An additional 3 cups of water. Okay. So it's coming my way because we didn't have that out. But like I said, you can use canned beans. You may want to drain them and rinse them if you don't want the bean juice from the can to be in your chili. Thank you very much. So we're adding 3 extra cups of water. And there we go. And that's the beans are gonna absorb that liquid. So it looks kind of soupy right now, but because we have the beans in there, that's gonna be all absorbed.
So one difference between our chili at home and in a kettle on the stove versus yours in an Instant Pot is how do you sample it every few minutes?
I know. You
I would always have a little custard cup.
Minutes. That's right.
Test it, make sure I was happy with the level of spice.
Yep.
Sure if it had enough sugar in it.
Right. And that is one of the fun things I remember about Dad cooking. It was always, just sampling, trying to make sure it tastes just right and perfect. And so, yeah, I guess that's kind of lost. You got to open it up and sample it at the end
Right.
and correct it a little bit. And feel free to do that. Salt your food to taste, season your food to taste. Become a connoisseur of how it tastes, and feel free to add and change up to your taste, because each person likes things just a little bit different.
That's right.
So, okay. So now we're going to check our lid and make sure that sealing ring is in place and everything's there. And we're going to close it up. And we're also going to check my little checklist. I don't know if you've heard this, but in order, all the steps with using an Instant Pot, I had to come up with a little chanted checklist so I could remember all the steps. So I do liquid, lid, valve, program, pressure, time, pause, or start.
Okay.
So the liquid, we added the liquid. You always have to add liquid anytime you're using cooking under pressure, and then put the lid on, and you check the lid as you're putting it on, and then check the valves. So the regular Duo, the Lux, many of the pressure cooker models, you have to manually make sure that valve's on sealing in order for it to come up to pressure. So liquid lid valve program, we're going to set the cooking program, and because there's a bean chili option on this one is the Ultra, I'm going to go ahead and select bean chili. If there's an obvious one, my rule of thumb is if there's something obvious that is what I'm cooking, I'll use that button. Otherwise, you can use pressure cook or manual. So if yours doesn't have the bean chili option, just use pressure cook or manual on the program setting. So we're going to select bean chili. Program pressure, we're going to make sure it's on high pressure. We're going to cook this on high pressure. There are only a few things I use for low pressure. And then set your time. We're going to select the time. And because these are raw beans, we're going to cook them for 30 minutes under pressure. And if you need to change the time on yours, if it's not already set, you just dial this in on the Ultra. And if you have a Duo or a Lux, you're going to use the plus or minus buttons to adjust the time. There are preset times on some of the settings, on the program settings, and there are other ones that are not preset, so you can use the plus and minus buttons to adjust the time. And then I had to pause when I was cooking on my Duo, because you don't have to press start. You have to wait 10 seconds. You have an Instant Pot.
I do.
So you have to wait 10 seconds. Yours just starts after 10 seconds. But I kept wanting to press the button at the lower right, because that's what my slow cooker did, and I would always cancel out everything I just did. So I had to make myself pause. But on the Ultra, the Evo, and some of the other models, you have to actually press start.
Okay.
If it has the start button, press start. And then we'll let that cook. And before it comes to pressure, we're going to move it out of the way. And we have another pot back here that we'll open up in just a couple minutes. And now we have our daughters. My daughter Abigail, you've seen before if you've watched this before.
Yep.
And her cousin Libby, Elizabeth. And they're going to come and make some cornbread. I'm going to clean up a little bit for you. Hi. Get this stuff out of the way. So these girls don't have microphones on, so I'm going to have to kind of narrate what you're doing, and you'll have to talk real loud. And we can bring these ingredients over. Thank you. Okay, so what we're making next is called Southern Skillet Cornbread. And here's what we love about it. You heat up the oil in a cast iron skillet, and that oil is nice and hot, and then you mix some of that into your batter, and the rest just kind of French fries the bottom of your cornbread, and it's really delicious. So, you ready?
Yep.
Okay. So, you talk as loud as you can.
Okay, so
we're gonna.
so we're going to mix the wet ingredients and the dry ingredients separately, and then sorry, I don't really know what else. Okay, so we're gonna get a cast iron skillet and pour our oil into the cast iron skillet.
So right now this is a cold cast iron skillet.
Yes.
We're gonna pour a half a cup, and we're using peanut oil. You can use bacon grease or any kind of vegetable oil that you like. And then we're gonna put this in the preheated oven. It's set on 425. And that's gonna heat up. So it takes about 15 minutes for that to heat up. And that's just about the right time for you to make your batter.
Yes. So this is our dry ingredient bowl, and then this is our wet ingredient bowl.
Okay.
And this is where we're going to crack our eggs into.
So if you've been watching, so here's a little farm update. We've been finally getting about a little over a dozen eggs from our chickens each day, and I just think these are beautiful eggs. So proud of our chickens. And so when you have farm eggs, even when you have store eggs, you're supposed to crack them into a bowl, but especially when you have farm eggs, you really want to do that. Okay, so Libby, you want to crack these 2 eggs? And then you can break them into this bowl. Libby, my mom has always had chickens. Here, you want to put it in here first? There we go. And it looks great, so now we'll put it in there. You can put that eggshell over on that plate. So Libby grows up eating farm eggs from my mom's chickens. There we go. And then you're going to want to beat those eggs just a little bit, kind of break them up. There we go. Okay. So Daddy's going to have you get a microphone. And Libby, do you want to whisk this? So we made butter and we used it. So our cow, we're just so excited about our cow, and we've been trying to make all the different things. So this week, was it Rachel or you? Who made the cultured buttermilk? Cultured butter.
Both of us did.
Team effort. They made cultured butter by adding a little bit of yogurt culture to the cream and then letting that sit overnight. And that made the culture kind of have just a little bit of a tart flavor. And then we have real cultured buttermilk left over, and so we're going to use it to make our cornbread.
Is 1 1/4 cups of cultured buttermilk, raw.
So you can also, if you don't have so you can buy cultured buttermilk at the store and use that. But if you don't, you can just use milk and a tablespoon of
vinegar
or lemon juice. So what you'll do if you don't have any buttermilk, you don't have to run to the store. Just put about a tablespoon. I guess because this is 1 1/4 cups,
right,
you'll need a little bit more than a tablespoon of vinegar or lemon juice, something acidic. And you can put that into your measuring cup, and then the balance will be up to a cup. So it won't be quite a cup of milk, but you'll have a total of 1 1/4
right,
of liquid. And if you just let that sit a little bit, it'll kind of curdle the milk and make it be buttermilk.
Yeah.
Because buttermilk is the acid. And then, so that's all of our liquid ingredients,
this is
right?
all of our liquid ingredients.
Okay, we got to get Libby. Libby, you want to measure out? So we use 2 kinds of flour. We use cornmeal and regular flour. And the amount of cornmeal is 1 3/4 cups. And here's a 3/4. We need a 1 cup measuring cup. I don't know where that landed. So we're gonna mix
our 3/4 cups. So.
Yeah, we're gonna mix the flour,
which is just 3/4 cup of flour,
of regular all-purpose flour. Here you go, Libby.
And then
let Libby do.
Yeah. And then here's our 3/4 cup.
Oh, this is a 3/4 cup measuring cup.
And then we have, you got that. So we have our baking powder and baking soda. And so we are going to do 2 teaspoons of baking powder. Do you want to do some?
I'll take the bag of cornmeal.
So we're going to do 2 teaspoons of baking powder.
This is even super good with stone ground cornmeal, but we don't have any of that right now. But you can use any cornmeal that you have.
And then 3/4 teaspoon of baking soda. So I can take this. I usually do a 1/2 teaspoon and a 1/4 teaspoon.
There you go. That's a good idea.
Just you don't have to. You only have to do 2 and not 3. So.
Awesome. The cornbread is so simple to make. Oh, does this not have salt? Okay, salt. Cornbread just takes a few ingredients. It's really simple to make, and it's a yummy addition to chili or any kind of soup. It's great for fall and winter soups.
So we're going to do 1 1/4 teaspoon of salt.
Okay.
In here. That's 1
1/4.
1/4. There you go.
Awesome. So you always want to make sure dry ingredients first, all completely, and then you're wet. And then right before our oil is hot is when we will mix these together. But you could go ahead and stir that up, Libby.
So I'm going to check on our oil.
So when the oil is kind of really shimmering in that cast iron skillet is when you want to take it out. So you want to keep a sharp eye on that, see when it's about ready. And right before that, we'll mix together the liquid and the dry ingredients, because when we pull, is it hot? Okay, so I'm going to move this jar out of the way. And so we can go ahead and mix these together. I'm going to pour the liquid into the wet, and then you can stir it. You don't want to stir it too much because you don't want it to be tough. You want it to be nice and tender. And but you want it to be mostly incorporated. And then we're going to add, Abigail, I'll handle the real hot. Probably should have. Okay, thank you. So Libby, I'm going to pour this hot oil. I'm going to pour about half of it. And I need a little piece of paper towel. And if Abigail, if you want to use that other whisk, you're welcome to. I'm pouring about half the hot oil, so about 1/4 cup of hot oil. And you want to make sure you don't have drips coming down.
It is very hot.
It's very hot. And I'm going to set that here. And then Abigail's going to pour that, and you'll see it start bubbling like it's almost frying the bottom of your cornbread. It gives it a super delicious crust. You don't want to over mix this. But this cornbread is so good. Our family just absolutely loves it. And there's usually not any leftovers. But if there are, they're usually kind of dry. So don't try to save the leftovers. Just enjoy it. Okay, I'm going to put this in the oven. And here we go. All right. And remember that skillet is super hot. And then here is the one we baked before. And here's what it looks like when it comes out. Looks beautiful. So it's not, it didn't even completely fill this up. It's not perfect, but it is so, so yummy when it comes out. And I think we'll cut open a piece and slather some butter on there. Abigail's going to go grab a knife. What do you think, Libby? Do you guys make cornbread? Yeah. Awesome.
Did you say something about testing the food? I thought I'd get back in the frame for this one.
Uncle Casey wants to come test the cornbread. That sounds good. Okay. We'll just slice up a few pieces. So this is a 12-inch skillet. The other one was a 10-inch skillet. And we have about, with both of our families here, there are 15 of us. So we like to cut, this will make about 12 or 13 pieces. And then, so we'll go ahead and sample this. And looks so good. It's nice and warm. Do you see that fried crust on the bottom? So delicious. And I'll cut a couple pieces so we can all have a little sample. All right. And this, Okay, so I got this wooden butter mold for Mother's Day from my daughters. It was such a thoughtful gift, and we keep trying different ways of getting it out, and it just hasn't worked. So we're just going to scoop it out with a knife. Here's some, but this is butter that the girls made. This is the cultured butter. So make sure you slather your cornbread with plenty of butter. And I'll spread this out and give the first piece to Uncle Casey.
Oh, God bless you.
He said he likes his butter like frosting.
Right, you can
Is that
actually
enough?
go up to 1/4 inch thick with the butter,
Okay.
and that's perfectly okay.
Casey's a fan of butter.
Mm.
And here, Libby.
That is fantastic.
Awesome. And here, Miss Abigail.
Thank you.
Do we have any
You're
chili we
welcome.
could dunk this in?
We have some chili. We'll open that right up in just a second. Okay. And I'm going to have some too.
Cheers.
Cheers. Oh, it's yum. It's nice and warm.
Mm-hmm.
I love that crunchy
Yep,
crust
it's
on the
fantastic.
bottom. And that's what doing it in a skillet does. It's better than doing it in glass. Like if you just had a glass pan, which you can, of course, you can bake this in a glass pan. You could possibly even heat up your oil. I've done that with butter. We should think about that. Can
If
you
you got
heat up
cast
your oil?
iron,
But
just
if you've
use
got
it.
cast iron, use the cast iron. Oh, yum yum. Okay, so now we'll get out our chili. See how that turned out.
Yum.
Skillet is still warm. Here's the pot holder. I found it.
Maybe make you some space.
Okay, thank you. Okay. And thank you, girls, so much for making the cornbread, and we'll see you at lunch. I think even Paul Paul's going to come over and join us for lunch.
Awesome.
For chili. Okay, so this pot is the pot we cooked earlier this morning. Same recipe. And so it's not under pressure anymore. It's just been naturally releasing. So one of the things I love about cooking in the Instant Pot is you can put it on whenever, mostly depending on the food. I wouldn't put cabbage on and leave it.
Right.
There are some foods that can get overcooked, but a soup like chili that is better the longer it's
Right.
together. You can put it on in the morning and just let it be. You can put it on and it can naturally release as long as you want. If you leave the keep warm function on, it'll remain above 140 degrees, so it'll be completely safe to eat. You could even leave it overnight if you wanted
Right.
to. So, and with whenever you're cooking dried beans, the natural release time is really important. It's part of your cooking time. So you definitely want to let your chili naturally release for a little while before you release it. Okay, here is our yummy chili. It looks amazing. When you open it up, it's gonna have like if there was a thickness on top, you're gonna definitely want to stir that in and stir it all together. And you want to make sure your beans cooked all the way through. So I'm going to get a little taste test of the beans out here and make sure that they are fully cooked. If they're not, it's okay. You can just add, if it looks like it's a little thick, you might add just a little bit of water to help it come to pressure, and just cook it a little bit longer. Just turn it back on, bean chili again, add another 5 minutes or 10 minutes, depending on how crunchy they are. No problem, and you can have your dinner ready. So I'm gonna check the beans, make sure they're cooked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're
Perfect.
great, nice and soft. Now, if you were at this point and you wanted to mash some beans, what would you do? You
We always used a
could you?
potato masher, but with just the beans. So I don't
Right.
know. I think the chance to mash the beans is gone.
Yeah, you have to cook your beans beforehand.
So mom wins.
There you go. No mashing.
No mashing.
For sure for today. Okay. Here we go. We're going to just ladle out some of this yummy chili. And, oh, we do need a taste test for salt.
Right.
And you know that this is extremely hot when it comes out of the pressure cooker.
Right.
It just, so give that a little good stir. See if it needs a little salt or any more spices, any more extra cumin. At this point, if you felt like it needed more garlic, you would definitely want to just use powdered garlic. But you could correct. And if while you're taste testing, you could put it back on saute if it's cooling off too much. And you want to, if you're taking your time to
right.
taste test. But the pressure cooker allows it almost to have next day flavor in a fraction of the time of leaving us just cooking it on the stove. You kind of have to let it simmer for really an hour at least.
Right.
To get the amount of flavor that you get when you pressure cook your chili.
And chili was always the best when it was the leftovers and it was the next
absolutely.
day. Had a chance to
second day
sit
soup.
in the fridge overnight, get all melded together.
Absolutely. So if you make it the day ahead, if you know you're going to need it or having company, and we like to serve chili when we have friends over. It's great over a baked potato. You can do a lot of different things with it. Put it over rice, and it's a great food to have when you have friends over. And so if you're doing that, you can make it the day before.
Yep.
And have it already done. It'll even freeze really well.
Okay, I didn't know that.
You could put it in a Ziploc bag. Some people find a bucket, like a plastic bucket, that would fit down in your Instant Pot, and then line it with a plastic bag, fill that with chili, zip it, leave it in the bucket, freeze it in a circle.
So then it stays in its shape.
It's in its shape, and then you can put the
giant
whole
hockey
frozen
puck
hunk in your Instant Pot and heat it up in there.
Okay.
If you were to heat it up in there, you would just, if it were frozen, you would want to, if you're going to put it on saute because you need it quick, then you would want to be right there to make sure it's not going to scorch on the bottom. But I would probably put it on, if you get it out in plenty of time, put it on slow cook on high. Here's the slow cook. Let's cancel and set it how I would. I would do slow cook. And see, right now it's on normal. I would press slow cook again to cycle through. See how that cycles through. Put it on more and probably put it on for about 4 hours and then check it periodically if you're able to. And it'd be nice and heated up.
Yep.
As leftovers. Okay, I'm going to have my first taste.
Fantastic.
Good. I could probably use just a little bit more.
Well, salt.
Salt?
That's what I was thinking too.
So we'll add a little salt to your bowl.
A pinch.
Little pinch of salt. And we'll add, I don't know, what do you think, half a teaspoon to the pot or a quarter?
Oh, half.
We'll do a half.
That pinch was just perfect for this.
Okay. I didn't add any salt to anything else. Sometimes the tomatoes are plenty salty and you don't have to add salt.
Best to wait and see how it turns out.
That's my philosophy. So anyway, that's our chili and our cornbread. Thank you for joining us. It's been so great to have you here. It's been so great to have my brother here.
My pleasure's all mine.
We just really bond over food.
Mm-hmm.
So we appreciate you guys joining us, and we hope that you're going to enjoy cooking with your family. We hope you'll try this recipe. You can find it on our website at thecookingfamily.com, and the chili recipe's on there, the cornbread recipe's on there, and several other recipes and videos that show you exactly how we make it. There's also a free course that you can sign up for on the website. It's a Fearless Newbie Instant Pot mini course, and it'll get you started with your Instant Pot. And it's free. Just sign up on there, and you can go take the course. And we hope that we would love it if you'd share that with friends so that they can get started on the Instant Pot. And I think that's it.
Yep.
Thanks so much for joining us today. And remember, your family can cook and enjoy great meals together. See you next time.
See ya.
Bye.